And I think too, for a lot of people, they, spent a lot of time at home, within their own four walls, if you will, instead of, going back out and seeing, other people, other colleagues and coworkers. So I think there could be a social anxiety, in re-entering that, Liz.
Absolutely. I think many of our children, our teens, we all were so focused on staying away from people. And so we did to maintain health and safety. And now that there are more people inside stores with or without masks, there people and children, adolescents are developing social anxiety. I don't know how to be around other people because the rules keep changing, really, and we have to acclimate, reacclimate, acclimate, reacclimate, and our thoughts don't move that quickly. We really have to transition in, and especially for our children and our teenagers, we have to find those step by steps, especially when you had a child who was anxious to begin with.
Yeah, it was interesting. The other day I was in a store and the person didn't have a mask on, and they showed their vaccination card to somebody in the store, to prove that and the person was like, okay. And I think there's, this not knowing who is and who isn't, and are you following the rules? Are you doing the right thing? I think, Caroline, that kind of adds like another layer of insecurity.
Well, absolutely. As humans, we have a drive for certainty and the known. It's part of our survival instincts. And so when we're in uncertain situations, when the conditions are consistently changing, when the rules change every couple of weeks, when we don't really know what's going on, we naturally kick a little bit more into fight or flight because our bodies are taking over to help us to survive. And so we're trying to find certainty, we're trying to find known, and we're trying to navigate that in the face of perceptions of a threat or perceptions of a risk.
Yeah, and I think I was trying to have a conversation, at least with my kids, about this time is going to be a little uncomfortable, and we just have to see where everyone is. So how do you, Liz, I'll ask you, how do you start those conversations with your kids to just embrace that this might be awkward?
I think you call it just that. It's going to be an awkward time because there's a lot of unknown. Some people feel comfortable without their masks. Some people feel comfortable with masks. Some people feel comfortable in groups. Some don't. And just understanding that everyone is going to have different perceptions, and then to get a sense of what your children are comfortable with. And I know for me, I'm more comfortable than I think my children are. And so I'm honoring that wish and keeping my mask on because my children are more comfortable with that. But I'm okay to take off my mask. I'm fully vaccinated. But it's understanding that this is going to be a very awkward time in general, and we have to figure out our parameters for ourselves, very similar to what Caroline is saying, is create those boundaries for yourself, for your family, know them, and understand that there's going to be a transition time until we get to that point where everyone is either going to have masks on or off all the time, and crowds are okay or not okay. And it's I think this is going to be a getting to know what I'm comfortable with, and finding other people who are going to feel comfortable with you, and just again acknowledging this is awkward.
Mm.
It's just going to be awkward, and we're going to work through it, and it will be less awkward over time.
And Caroline, we know that not all people were affected equally from all of this, especially when it comes to work.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We've heard this dubbed as the she session, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because women have really been in the middle of kind of the brunt of caregiving, and so many of the jobs that women engage in were immediately lost at the start of this pandemic, and trying to navigate now balancing continued childcare or other caregiving in their life and navigating work, especially if they have to go back to the office, is really difficult. And I think that people are realizing that the rhythms or the way that they lived before the pandemic doesn't necessarily serve them well today. And I think that it's really important that we, whether it's our own personal lives, in work, managers, bosses, HR, really meets this time with creativity to come up with interesting solutions so that we can figure out the rhythms and the way of living that fits us today.